Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and now that the fusion event for Sigmund, the high shield, is upon us and live in game, wanted to get you some content as soon as possible after testing and show you some footage on this guy, talk about the AI, the kit, the base stats, the sets you're going to want to build, the multipliers, get you an infographic, and everything you're going to want as we move into the Sigmund, the high shield fusion over the course of the next 2 weeks. So let's get into it. Alrighty, and also during fusion events, I will put this down in the pinned comment of all my videos. If you would like to pull up the planner here to be able to see what is coming down the road, we got CVC down here, and that'll be available in my next like 10 to 15 videos. When a fusion event is live, I'll make sure to include that down below if you would ever like to pull that up. And also for my champion guides, I've always got the infographic right here that will be down there as well if you would like to pull this up and be able to see a general breakdown of the champion, the masteries that you will see in the video, the multipliers right here, the fact that he takes 12 books, the stat priority, the fact that you don't need any attack on him, the optimal sets, and all the stuff in one image. That will be also down below, but we'll get into more in depth on some of this stuff here as we go along in the video. So firstly, let's go over the kit and the base stats to get some context on him overall as a champion. The base stats, the HP is a little bit low, a little bit disappointing because 20,600, we do want to get really good HP on him because that is a lot of his utility because of the massive shield that he places based on 30% of his HP. So it is, I would have liked to see that be like 22, 23, 20.6 is a little bit low. The attack, you don't need it. It's completely worthless. It might as well be 0. It does you no good to get any attack. The defense is okay at 1354. Again, he scales his damage with defense, but we'll get into his multipliers and stuff, but I don't really think he's that great of like a nuker or some insane damage dealer, and he's not going to hit near as hard as like a Drexstar or anything like that. So I would probably lean towards using him as a utility support, which means the base defense, you're just kind of going for toughness out of the defense and the HP. The speed of 97 is fine because he's not like a Lysandra, Arbiter, Apothecary. He doesn't need like insane speed. With him being a buffer, it's okay to have him go at the back end of your rotation after some of your champions go. That way you're not wasting a turn of some of the buffs that he places. Have him kind of go last before the enemies take their turn to get, as long as your allies have things up before the enemies take their turn, should be fine. So there are situations where that would make sense. And with him not being a speed turn meter booster, the fact that his base speed isn't like 106 is fine. And then he does get 50 resistance, which is really sturdy. That's a really good base resistance. And he gets 10 accuracy, which is nice because he does need accuracy for a lot of his kit here, like we'll dive in and show you here in a second. Starting with the A1, where we've got attack one enemy and remove any shield buffs. So obviously this is like double S god tier in the Magic Keep, where you're going to be facing those massive shields. If you're struggling to progress in the Magic Keep, you're an early game player, something like that, this guy would be bonkers for your Magic team. Then we're also going to have a 50% chance that we can book up to a 75 of removing one random buff. So remove any shield and then also any random buff. And then we get the buffed chance against bosses of 75%. It can be booked up to 100. And the damage is based on defense with a multiplier of 3.75 times one opponent. So not the worst multiplier in the world, but it's not great either. Then the A2 is going to be attack all enemies 2 times, and each hit has a 50% chance of placing a provoke that we can book up to 75, and then also has a 75% chance that we can book up to 100 of placing the big version of decrease attack. So he's going to soak up damage and, you know, also lower the damage that he's soaking up by placing the decrease attack. It's also a multi-hitter, and also it can be booked up to a 3-turn cooldown. So lots of CC. You can keep the decrease attack up on an AoE almost permanently with lots of suppression from the provoke, especially if you have a high speed team. And the multiplier on that is a 2.0 AoE, and it's a multi-hitter of 2. So basically what it is a multiplier of 4.0 AoE. So it's not great. Like, I believe Drexstar is over 6. So Drexstar would be a much better like defense nuker or like an Ignatius or something like that. This guy is going to be more middle of the road as a defense damage dealer. Not trash, not awesome, but definitely not one of the best in the game or anything as a defense scaling champ. Then on the A3, we've got place a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 30% of his max HP. And then we're also going to place a strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. Books to a 3-turn cooldown. So when you start to see how this stuff stacks up, we're getting a lot of team-wide toughness. We're lowering their attack on an AoE. We're going to place a shield And we're also going to place Strengthen on all allies. That's 3 things. Lower attack, shield, and strengthen. Those things start stacking on top of each other, and your team is going to be very sturdy and very tough. We also get a passive of whenever the champion is attacked, and remember, he places Provoke on the A2, so he'll be soaking up some attacks. Has a 20% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs, not one, all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn, and a 40% chance instead against bosses. So after you place that Provoke, you'll get a little bit of value out of this passive here by also lowering duration of buffs. And he gets an aura of ally defense in Doom Tower battles by 40%, which is a pretty big, beefy aura. 40% defense is big. So if you're building any sort of a slower composition in a Doom Tower battle, that aura could actually be pretty solid. But now let's head on over to the Sigmund that I have got built, and we will talk about the gearing, the stats, the booking, and the masteries. Alrighty, so as you can see, I've got a little bit of a blend here on the sets of some defense, some HP, and some speed, some gear that I had laying around here to try to put together a build that makes some sense here. And then also on the infographic, you will see up on the top right that we have got speed, divine speed, perception, gets him speed and accuracy, which is fine. But you do kind of want to get some HP and some sturdy stats. He does have the provoke, so you're going to want him to be tough. And I did put shield up there. He's an alright shield set candidate because he does, you know, he doesn't need insane speed and you're trying to get HP on him. But just keep in mind, his base HP is 20.6. You compare that to someone like Mountain King, who's famous for wearing a shield set. We get a base HP of 31,000. So just keep that in mind if you're using him as a shield tamp. It can be a lot tougher to scale up his HP because the base HP is unfortunately a little bit low for his role, in my opinion. So for the individual pieces of gear, on the banner, accuracy makes sense, and then you're hoping for like speed, defense, and HP, some of the toughness stats down there. And then probably scaling up with HP, mostly based on your amulet, your ring, your chest, and your gloves. Getting some HP to make sure you're placing some really solid shields, I think would be good, because like I said, you could go with a bunch of defense and try to scale his damage or something, but then you wouldn't be getting near the shields out of him, and he's not going to do a ton of damage anyway. So I would tend to recommend leaning towards HP, and you could go for HP boots as long as you've got decent glyphs and decent speed substats on the rest of your gear and your speed doesn't suffer too much, because it's totally fine to have him go towards the back end of your rotation. That's okay. Then for the skills and the booking, I think he takes 12 books, 5, 10, 12. Yeah, okay. Okay, the books are really impactful. He gets 3 cooldowns. You get 1 on the A2 and 2 on the A3. So if you are going to be using this guy, if you haven't finished Banner Lords, if you are struggling to progress, if you're an early game player that's still trying to get towards those end game dungeons, trying to get to the end of the Magic Keep, I would say he's worth books as a progression champion. He's not going to be a top 20 legendary in the game. He's not, you know, Duchess or Siphi or Warlord or something, but he could help in 3-starring some content and helping newer players progress. So I wouldn't feel horrible about spending the books on it if you're still needing to do those things. Then for the masteries, remember I do have those down below if you'd like to pull those up and take a look whenever you would like, right here on the infographic that is down below if you'd like to pull up the masteries. But yeah, so I would probably go support and defense, make him a little bit more sturdy, and then get some of the support tree can get a little bit wonky. He does play shield, so you kind of want to get this one here. If you're going to prioritize the provoke in like tag team arena or something, you would probably want charged focus. But if you're not going to manual him ever or set up a custom team, he tends to prioritize his buffs. So unfortunately, if you let him play on auto, he won't really get any value out of this charged focus. He'll almost always have an ability on cooldown when he tries to do something that requires accuracy. So keep that in mind. If you're playing only on auto with him, you might not want to take that one there. But other than that, yeah, you kind of go down the left. He places both buffs and debuffs, so you can get a lot of value here out of kind of splitting down the support tree here. And then for tier 6, like taking the Fearsome Presence is gonna help take his provoke from 75% to 80. It's on an AoE, so you get that 5%. 3, 4, 5 times, so it actually gets pretty decent value. But you can also make an argument for Eagle Eye if you don't have a good banner, or if you want to skip the banner, maybe get an HP banner to increase the value of his shields. So you have to kind of play around with a couple different ones here on the tier 6, but I would probably say in most cases you take Eagle Eye or the Fearsome Presence. But now let's go ahead and pull up some footage of this guy in action, and then while we are doing so, I can show you the grades from my tier list over there. So he is going to be the one on the far left over here. Kind of looks like Roshkar the Tower from the backside of the team here. Gives me a Roshkar feel for whatever reason from behind on the team. But anyway, So as you saw there on turn 1, the thing to note is his AI prioritized placing the buffs instead of the AoE provoke. So really got to drive that point home. If you're trying to use him for the AoE provoke, you're definitely going to want to set up a specialized team or make sure you step in and manual that. But one thing to also note in that regard is he's going to be placing 3 buffs on turn 1 if you put him in a shield set. So he's going to do the strengthen and the shield. And then if you have him in a shield set, that would be 3. So he could actually make sense in a seer composition where you do buffs, 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 and then you remove and nuke. And then you reset, buffs, 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 remove, nuke, reset. So he could make a lot of sense in getting to a boss super fast in a seer composition. But then as we dive into the to the tier list rankings down here, he grades out as an 8.2, which is not godly. It's not trash. He just kind of is a decent progression champion who's pretty sturdy and makes your team pretty tough. He's going to be god tier in the magic keep. You can see over there for the spirit keep and the magic keep, he is a 12, which is a super meta score. So he's going to be one of the best champions in the game for those 2 areas because of the removal of the shield, the removal of the random buffs, being strong affinity in the spirit keep. Other than that, I think Ice Golem is going to be his best dungeon for sure because he's got so much toughness with the decreased attack to go along with it as well. He'll be okay in most of the places. He's going to be awesome in Faction Wars. If you haven't finished Bannerlord Faction Wars, he'll be really good there. He's got a lot of toughness in the clan boss with the decreased attack, the shield, the things I've mentioned before, but I don't think he's going to be like a meta clan boss champion or anything. XP farmer, he could do it. He'd be super slow though, and I don't think he's really viable to be a nightmare campaign farmer. There's lots of other champions you would choose before that. So all in all, the book value of an 8 is if you still need progression. If you don't, it would probably be like a 4 because I don't think he's going to be insane in the end game or anything. I think someone like Brogni, a fusion they did recently, had a lot more end game viability than Sigmund, but he is a pretty decent progression champion for sure. So all in all, in conclusion, how do I feel about the champion? Plarium's design on him, would I change anything, and that type of stuff? It is tough because obviously you can't release the most insane champion in the game every fusion, or that would get really silly really fast and people would hate that. But you also can't release bad champions or no one's going to want to do the fusion and it won't be worth really playing and going hard for it. So it is tough to kind of hit that sweet spot. I think he's close to that sweet spot. I think he does need a little bit, maybe... like the base HP bothers me. I don't like the base HP of 20.6. I would probably change his damage to scale with HP, and then I would give him like a 25,000 base HP. That wouldn't break him or anything. It would help him scale the HP, get more value out of the shield, because that's what you're using him for. Using for the utility of making your team super sturdy, and then that would help him not have to worry about trying to scale defense if you want to do damage, but then you don't really get any value out of your shield. Or if you go for getting a bunch of value out of your shield, now you don't do anything for damage. I think it would have been a little bit more synergistic with his kit if they just made his damage scale with HP, buff up his base HP, and then that would help him get a little bit more value out of damage and a little bit more value out of shield. And just doing those things, I think would have kind of been a little bit of love without like buffing him insanely or anything. But I think he could use a little bit, but they got it mostly right. I would give his design like a B. If they did the things I talked about, it'd be like an A- or so. But it is what it is. He's kind of better as a progression champion for early to mid game players as opposed to being viable for end game players, which on its surface is fine. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's good to prioritize helping the progression side of things kind of catch up and get to that end game content as well. So like I said, all in all, it's all right. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing trash. It is what it is. And I probably do recommend going for the fusion if you can. You don't want to be left out if they end up rebalancing. Like we see them balancing Pixneal now. She was a fusion back in the day that no one wanted to do. Everybody said was trash. But now they're looking at addressing that and making her better. Time will tell if that actually ends up being worth it or not, and brings her into the light of day and seeing use. But you don't want to miss out on situations like that. So what I always say is don't break the bank, but you also don't want to look back and regret not doing a fusion in hindsight. So if you're watching this right away, you're probably still kind of mulling over, should I do the fusion, should I not? I would lean towards recommending doing it, even though there are some things that I would like to change about Sigmund here, because he's just missing that little bit of oomph to kind of make me excited about him like I was with Brogni and stuff. So, but as always, let me know what you think down below. I really enjoy hearing your perspectives as well. And let me know if you disagree with any of my grades. I do change these based on me learning more and also hearing other opinions from people as well. So that'll do it for this one. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out, because I've got a lot of resources coming your way, and I'm working really hard and getting you everything you need for Raid Shadow Legends as we keep progressing here and the grind continues. So as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.